Hey y'all, I am back with chapter 8 of Will Smith's autobiography, simply entitled Will. So, chapter 8 is called Pain, and that speaks of his Aries stellium, but namely that Aries North Node, because I'd say that Aries North Node people, they have to get used to enduring some pain in this lifetime. So, it will be interesting to see what he has to say in this chapter. He was light skinned with light eyes. I hated dudes like that. Now, the hatred in his heart comes from that Scorpio moon. Scorpio can have very strong emotions, strong feelings, could be very extreme. Either they love it or they hate it. I've always been intimidated by those Christopher Williams looking jokers. Women have always shoulder surfed right past me to gawk over Albie Shore or El DeBarge. I had just come home from a 2-week run in the Pacific Northwest, Seattle, Portland, and a bunch of little ones in between. I used to run right off stage into the car straight to the airport to get back to Melanie as quickly as possible. I didn't want to leave any room for my inner hyena to grab the wheel and drunk drive through my life. That phrase, drunk drive through my life, that's his moon conjoining Neptune with that moon rule in the third house. Third house is driving, traveling. I was meeting Melanie at her aunt's house. I had the car drop me off directly there from the airport. We were going to walk from her aunt's to our new home. For old time's sake, we were going to pass over Bucky and hit the Sugar Bowl convenience store for a water ice and a soft Philly pretzel, just as we'd done 1,000 times before. I always loved how Melanie missed me. Even weekend gigs, when I came home Monday mornings, she acted like I'd been gone for months. She knew how to make a dude feel glad he was home. When I walked in after the Northwest trip, she and her aunt were in the kitchen, cooking, just as they've been so many times before. Being on the road can be excruciatingly lonely. It feels almost like it dehydrates your heart. Her aunt was in her usual dark blue hijab with her glasses way down on the tip of her nose so she could see into the pots. The smell of the food seemed to soften and quench my parched soul. Melanie was in one of her art smocks that doubled as an apron. I always thought that was weird. Paint is chemicals. That smock did not belong in the kitchen. That's his Mars and Virgo. I looked at Melanie. Everything was the same except something wasn't. Her energy was odd. Something was off. Because of my upbringing, it's almost as if I have a shock collar wrapped around my central nervous system. That's very much dealing with his Sun Uranus conjunction. Uranus rules the central nervous system, and him talking about shocks, that's that Uranus influence. When I perceive that something is askew, that someone's external behavior is out of sync with what is going on in their heart and mind, my body experiences what I could best describe as a gradual rising electrical current. I feel a bzzz, and then it's like I'm shivering, but I'm not cold. So I totally believe he's telling the truth on this part because he got Sun in Libra, and Libra deals with other people, conjoined to Uranus, and that can make him very sensitive to different frequencies, changes in the vibration of the air, changes in people, again, because his Sun is in Libra. Yeah, so I definitely believe he's telling the truth about this. The kitchen was hot, but I had the chills. We sat down, we ate dinner, we talked about the neighbor's dogs. Melanie's aunt had once been to Portland. She didn't like that section of the country, too rainy. Melanie was laughing too much. Bzzz. After dinner, we watched Trading Places. I know every word Eddie Murphy says in that movie. He was my idol. Melanie and I had seen it at least 10 times, but tonight she kept laughing too hard. Bzzz. Her aunt went to bed. We were finally alone. Melanie snuggled into me. I had missed her a lot on this trip. We kissed, but her kisses felt less like affection and more like something she thought she better do if she was going to successfully hide the fact that she had fucked somebody. Bzzz, 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 bzzz. To this day, I don't know how I knew or how I felt so confident to commit wholeheartedly the way I did to my instinct. Taking her arm from around my neck, pushing away, I stood up and yelled, "You think I'm stupid?" Now, going back to what he said He said, or how I felt so confident to commit wholeheartedly the way I did to my instinct. That's that opposition between his Libra energy and his Aries energy. The instinct is the Aries, him making a commitment to it is the Libra part. And, he's questioning why he's not being level-headed about this. The level-headed is the Libra side of him. What? Melanie said, but not strongly enough. I know what the fuck you did. Stop looking at me like I'm stupid. I was all in, every chip on the table. I was holding nothing, but she folded. I'm sorry, she said, bursting into tears. It only happened one time, but I don't love him. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I love you. We were just friends and then you were gone. I didn't know what you were doing out there. I was missing you. I swear to God, I won't do it again. What? Was I right? But no. Why? I have been knocked unconscious in the past. My first day at Overbrook High, when I was hit in the head with that lock, there is a blue flash, and then you're in a strange alternate universe where all of the things you once believed are now up for grabs. Gravity, cause and effect, love, whether or not it rains in Southern California. That's corny, Will. This is impossible. I've done everything right. I'm winning. I'm the best. I've made a home for us. I've spent months arguing and fighting with a ravenous, slathering pride of ghetto hyenas to keep girls off the buses and out of the hotel rooms. I haven't touched or kissed or barely even glanced at another woman. That is very odd for a young man. So it's like, even if he's committed to his girlfriend, most guys still have eyes and they're still going to look at, tantalizing women, and a lot of them still will cheat, especially if they're in his position with all these women around him. Now, I'm not saying all dudes are like that, but to me, this is him basically revealing who he really is about. He just doesn't have a strong attraction to women like that, in my opinion. And that's what he's really getting at. So going back, I came straight home from the airport. We talked about babies and making a better home than either of us had grown up in. How could you possibly do this to me? How could you do this to us? On the outside, though, I was strangely calm because none of these thoughts were registering as actual feelings. I wanted to be angry. I mean, you're supposed to be pissed when someone cheats on you, right? But I felt nothing. Again, that's those oppositions between his Aries energy, his Libra energy. He's trying to get angry. That would be him embracing that Aries North Node. But because he has such a strong pull towards Libra, it's very easy for him to be very rational about this and to remain calm even, and to continue to be a doormat. Melanie was covering her face, crying on the couch. Dan Aykroyd was attacking Eddie Murphy. Eddie was pleading for his life. It was the Dukes. It was the Dukes. And I just stood there numb. When somebody cheats on you, you have to do something. That do something, that's the Aries part. But what? I didn't feel any emotions, but I was not going to be a coward. Not this time. Even that Moon-Neptune conjunction, that Neptune influence upon his moon could cause him to be very numb to his feelings. So here it is. I just stood there numb. That's very Moon conjunct Neptune. What do you do when somebody cheats on you? I knew I had to do the storm out thing, but I also knew I had to do something violent to punctuate my departure. I scanned the room for possibilities. Next to the fireplace, I noticed one of those forged iron pointy things you poke the logs with. But what will I do with it? I sure wish I had some emotion to give me a little direction. So even though he's not feeling these emotions, the anger, the rage, he's still going to try to portray this. This just shows that he is a total fake actor. Like, basically, he's doing really good by being an actor in terms of his profession, because that's what he does normally. He acts. And again, that deals with those strong oppositions between his Libra energy and his Aries energy. Nevertheless, I picked it up. The front entry to Melanie's aunt's house was a beautiful wooden atrium holding 100 glass panels. I stood for a moment, looking at Melanie weeping, deeply uncommitted to my as yet undetermined but absolutely mandatory hissy fit. I calmly carried the iron pointy thing toward the front door and began to break the windows out one by one. I guess I smashed about 12, maybe 15 before I felt I had sufficiently done my performative duty as a cuckolded 20-year-old. I slammed the pointy thing to the ground. It scared the hell out of me. It clanged a lot louder than I thought it would. Shit, what if Melanie's aunt heard that? I thought. I should probably go. Why wouldn't she hear something that loud? I don't know if that part is totally true that he's telling, because that just don't seem right. But basically, he does have a mutable Mars, and mutable Mars can go off like that and do some crazy shit like that, even if he's just playing a role and acting. Melanie and I were supposed to be walking home together, but instead I decided to walk to Woodcrest alone. My mom had finally had enough. She had kicked Daddy-O out while I was on tour, this time for good. Daddy-O had moved into the apartment above a crack office. I knew my mom would be home alone. It was about a 22-minute walk. I could not believe I had just broken all those windows. I couldn't locate where it had come from within me. He probably only broke one window and he's lying about the rest. It seemed so strange for me to break things because I thought I should, not because I was at all emotionally impelled to do so. This discordance was hilarious to me. Out of nowhere, I began to chuckle. Replaying the scene in my mind, I was thinking, Will, you are an absolute lunatic. And that made me laugh even more. This whole shit was hysterical. Now, he probably is a lunatic because he got moon ruling that third house. Third house, it's a conscious mind. And he got the moon conjoined to Neptune in the sixth house in Scorpio. That is the epitome of a lunatic, if you want to get real. By the time I got to Woodcrest, Mama was sitting on the front step. Clearly, she had spoken to Melanie's aunt. She never sat on the front step. Her eyes were brimming. She was hoping to God that I was okay, but she was bracing for the storm. She knew her boy. When I saw her eyes, I felt how completely in tune she was to my pain. It wasn't just mine anymore, it was ours. And like a blast of dynamite demolishing the dam, holding back the river of my agony, I collapsed on the sidewalk, 10 feet from where the tour bus had borne me away from her. Mama runs down, throwing her arms around me as I wail. My childhood home mutely staring down upon my anguish. I had believed that leaving Woodcrest would mean I'd never have to feel this way again. How could she do this, Mommy? Why did God let this happen? My mom said nothing. She just held me. I was an adult now. My problems were beyond her fixing. I could feel her tears falling on the back of my neck. She picked me up and took me home. Heartbreak should be considered a disease. It induces a debilitating state akin to mental illness. The pain I was suffering was so intense, I would have preferred to have been stabbed or beaten or have a tooth pulled without Novocaine. My girlfriend had cheated on me, which was proof to my shattered mind that I was a piece of shit. I reasoned that she wouldn't have cheated if I had been good enough. I had failed another woman. Now, him feeling like a piece of shit or considering himself to be a piece of shit because she cheated on him, that's his Jupiter, ruler of the seventh house, being conjoined to Pluto. So how people think or view him is very, very much like in terms of a relationship or his relations to others is very much contingent upon their reactions and responses. If it's good, he's a good person. If it's bad, he's a bad person. He's like a shell of a person, which can be characteristic of a narcissist. All right, let me see where I left off. My girlfriend had cheated on me, which was proof to my shattered mind that I was a piece of shit. I reasoned that she wouldn't have cheated if I had been good enough. I have failed another woman. I desperately needed relief, but as there's no pill for heartbreak, I resorted to the homeopathic remedies of shopping and rampant sexual intercourse. Shopping. That next week, I flew 10 of my friends from Philly to Atlanta, and I closed down the Gucci store. Whatever y'all want, I got it, I said, slinging my Amex down on the counter. I had an Amex card now, and unlike my heart, it was unbreakable. Money was flowing like the Nile. We had just launched the DJ Jazzy Jeff and Fresh Prince rap hotline. 1-900-909-JEFF was the first ever 900 number. I doubt that. I'm pretty sure there was 900 numbers that came out before his. Premium rate telephone numbers were a revolutionary new way to connect with fans and basically the predecessor to the modern social media. Fans called our number and we would leave daily messages, a few minutes long, about where we were and what we were doing. It cost $2 for the first minute and 45 cents for each additional minute. At that height of popularity of the line, we were getting 5,000 calls a day. Do the math. My Amex card wasn't just unbreakable, it was invincible. Rampant sexual intercourse. Up until this point in my life, I had only had sex with one woman other than Melanie. But over the next few months, I went full ghetto hyena. Him keep on referring to that damn hyena shit. That's his Virgo stellium. And that Mars in Virgo in particular, he's identifying himself as some type of wild, nasty dog, like hyena, which is even lower than a dog, like ill. I had sex with so many women, and it was so constitutionally disagreeable to the core of my being that I developed a psychosomatic reaction to having an orgasm. It would literally make me gag and sometimes even vomit. That goes back to that moon conjoined to Neptune and Scorpio. To me, that's just showing, especially when you take into account that moon and Neptune are forming a quincunx with his Saturn and Aries. That's like he's forcing himself to have sex with women. And because he's not being his authentic self, true to himself, he feels sick about it. He vomits. So again, this is his way of revealing who he really is without coming out and saying it, if you're wise enough to read between the lines. In every case, though, I had hoped to God that this beautiful stranger would be the one, the woman who would love me, who would heal me, who would make this pain go away. But invariably, there I was, retching and wretched. And the look in the eyes of the women even further deepened my agony. I was doing the very thing I hated Daddy-O for, hurting women. Also, the vomiting can be seen with Jupiter conjoined to Pluto, with Jupiter ruling that seventh. And you know, Sagittarius, it's on his seventh. Sagittarius is a sign that deals with the truth. So it makes sense if he's not being truthful with himself, that he would be throwing up all over the goddamn place. I was miserable, so I purchased my first house, a mansion facing Marion Park in the rich neighborhood across City Line. I had seen it in my dreams, bleach white hardwood floors, 2-story ceilings in the living room, and a jacuzzi in the master bedroom, not in the bathroom, in the bedroom. The first thing I bought for the place before beds, couches, towels, or even silverware was a pool table. I eventually got a bed. It was the first time I ever slept in a king size. Me and Harry had slept in the same bed most of our childhood. Me and Charlie Mack had roomed together on the road. Notice he had to slip that one in there. And I'm sure they slept in the same bed together. I realized that first night on Marion Road that I had never really slept alone. I didn't like it. My heart was bleeding. I was dying in love with Melanie Parker. I wanted her back. My mind at the time still correlated performance with love. The entire basis for my self-esteem was foundationally dependent upon whether my woman was happy. My self-image was inexorably bound up in women's opinion and approval of me. I figured that since I was not receiving the love I so deeply craved, it had to be because of a deficiency in me as the lead character. If I had performed the role of boyfriend better, she wouldn't have cheated. So he's all about acting and playing roles. Now the role playing, that's very much moon conjoined to Neptune as well. And then he has that fifth house stellium which is very much dealing with acting as well. As you could probably imagine, that brought me a first-class ticket on a bullet train to agony. Melanie worked at the merry-go-round in the Gallery, a mall in downtown Philly. I used to go to the Gallery all the time. I was going to walk in, our eyes would meet. I would forgive her, and she would fall into my arms, gushing tears of gratitude and remorse. Then I would tell her that I wanted to marry her and that no wife of mine has to work in a shit-ass merry-go-round. We would give her boss the middle finger, hop into my brand new Benz 300 CE, and I would take her to her new Marion Road mansion, the one with the jacuzzi in the bedroom, not the bathroom. That's tacky. Parking at the Gallery was rough, so Charlie Mack drove us. That way he could sit in the car and keep it parked right in front of the store so I could Romeo flex into the merry-go-round, sweep her off her feet, and carry her over the threshold to the awaiting Benz. Beep, beep. Charlie hit the horn. Yo, man, you know I don't have no license, so if the cops come, I'ma just dip, Charlie said. This joker was messing up my whole production. Why don't you just get your goddamn license, I yelled. You know I got a gun charge. I can't get it yet. Just go get Melanie, man. Hurry up before 5-0 roll up. I ran into the store. It was a quiet day. The place was mostly empty. Melanie was behind the counter, folding Jordache jeans. She didn't see me. I got to watch her for a few. I would have watched her longer, but Charlie didn't have a license. In those few moments, I knew I didn't want to be without her. Whatever was empty inside of me felt full when I saw her. All that ached was soothed. All that ached was soothed. All that was thirsty was quenched. She looked up and our eyes met. There was a brief but undeniable moment of clarity. Melanie absolutely loved me and I loved her. Bzzz, shit, my damn shock collar. Even the term shock collar, that's like him referring to himself as a dog. I don't know what it is, but I trust it. I let my attention tunnel deeper inside her. I walk up to her. We hug. Still not right. Bzzz. I let go of her. We smile. I scan the store. He was light-skinned with light eyes. I hate dudes like that. Bzzz. I look back to Melanie. She pretends to fold the clothes quicker. My lunch break is in 15. We could go get something to eat, she says. Bzzz. I look back to him. He won't make eye contact with me now. I see you, motherfucker. I charge across the store. He tries to get away guilty, but there's nowhere to hide in a merry-go-round. I'm all over him. Melanie is screaming. Somehow Charlie Mack appears and pulls me off him. The store is a wreck. So are his pretty green eyes. Charlie is dragging me, and I am dragging Melanie. We scrambled into the getaway car. Nigga, I told you I had a gun charge. What are you doing? Charlie barked as we peeled away. That was Melanie's last day at the merry-go-round. She promised to never see that guy again. I took her home to her new mansion on Main Line, the one with the jacuzzi in the bedroom, not the bathroom. We vowed to make it work. My secret unspoken oath was, if you come back, I promise I'll be good enough. The JBM stands for the Junior Black Mafia. Their motto in Philly was get down or lay down, meaning you either were with them or against them. You were either a part of them or you were dead. When you're a 20-year-old rapper from the inner city of Philadelphia who's just made his first $1 million, the only people who can afford to hang with you are other rappers, professional athletes, or drug dealers. I picked drug dealers. That's Moon conjunct Neptune and Scorpio. Bucky was 5'1", and the one is a stretch. He was a former Golden Gloves champion, and he was one of the top lieutenants in the JBM. When he was in the room, he commanded the first and the last word. If you had a disagreement, he was more than happy to take off his $30,000 worth of jewelry and meet you in the street. But if you were disrespectful, the jury didn't matter because he never wore a ring on his trigger finger. Bucky loved to laugh. He reveled in my sense of humor. With today's eyes, I could see that he was coming to Marion Road to get a break, a little breather from the stress and brutality of the street. I was his personal court gesture. He loved to hear me bust on people. Insult comedy was his favorite. Coincidentally, it was my forte. I made the mistake, though, one night of cracking a joke about Bucky's height. Yo, Buck, you want a boost? Or maybe a step stool for that next shot? Nobody even snickered. Buck stayed calm, which was a terrible sign. The room fell silent. He walked over to me, his chin barely reaching my chest. He stood there. I knew that meant I had to bend down so he could talk to me. I lowered myself like a silverback in the wild, surrendering to the alpha. Ew. Buck whispered in my ear, just because you a star don't mean I won't make you see some. The logic of his analogy wasn't entirely flawless, but the underlying point was well taken. I never joked about Buck again. Marion Road was now party central. At any given time, there would be 20 or more people in the house, blasting music, shooting pool, thousands of dollars worth of Philly cheesesteaks litter in the kitchen. I probably could have just brought Overbrook pizza for how much money I spent there. There were boxing matches in the backyard and a basketball court in the living room, and nonstop gambling on everything. Needless to say, this environment was not conducive to Melanie's artistic aspirations. Willard, can you turn the music down a little bit? She said. My bad, babe. Give me about an hour. I'm schooling these fools. I felt like my forgiveness had been such a gigantic gesture of love that she should be grateful to even be here. The truth was, I never actually forgave her. The weekends were when it really turned up. It was not uncommon for $150,000 to change hands between Friday night and Sunday morning. My boy Bam was the first pool shooter. He was always taking our money on the table. But one Saturday night, I caught fire on the pool table. I could not miss. Full-length bank shots, combinations, A-ball spot shots, perfect English dropping the cue ball into sweet positions. Everything went exactly where I was calling it. Buck found himself on the unfortunate end of the $30,000 losing streak. He sent one of his boys to go get more cash, but Buck lived in Southwest. That was at least 45 minutes round trip. So he threw his car keys on the table. The room erupted. Ooh, shit. My heart jumped for a minute, but I ain't no bitch. I threw the keys to my brand new seafoam green Benz 300 right to the keys to his custom black convertible BMW 325i. Rack them up, I said. I ran 4 balls off the break, high balls. The room was church silent. Bucky sized up his first shot. Easy 2-ball in the corner. Left himself great position on the 7 in the side. A little too aggressive though. Left himself out of position in the corner. He had to bank the 4 back under. But Buck ain't no bitch either. He ran the entire rack, and all I could do was watch helplessly, chalking my custom pool cue for a shot I never get to take. Here he goes being extra detailed when this shit don't even matter. And again, he could talk about that they played pool and he could condense the story into a couple of paragraphs, but this shit goes on. Bucky lined up the 8-ball, bank shot, cross corner. The 8 was sailing in slow motion towards the corner pocket. The gravity of the 8-ball was preparing to snatch my car keys with it into the abyss. A roar brewing as the ball approached. Oh, but no. The 8-ball clips the titty just enough to rattle it around and stand up in the jaws of the pocket. The room explodes. I've got new life, but I gotta do some real shooting. I still got 3 balls to pocket before I get a shot at the 8-ball duck in the corner. Again, and for those that are just seeing this for the first time, that's dealing with his Mars square ascendant. Mars and Virgo can be very detailed. And squaring that ascendant, that's like his book. And that's basically him communicating, but it's like it's too many details. And next thing you know, people are losing interest. My first ball is the dreaded straight shot, full length of the table. I don't play with it. I line it up, dead center of the pocket, 2 to go. This is also him like stroking his ego. But some people, they like all these details. So I guess to each his own, but I'm just not feeling all these details, especially for stuff like this. Like he basically turns anything basic into a grandiose affair. And that could be that Jupiter conjoined Pluto with Jupiter ruling the seventh. Yeah, he always wants to come across as like he's done some miraculous thing. I line it up, dead center of the pocket, 2 to go. Second shot would be in the side pocket, but my third shot in the corner, meaning I got to put some English on the cue ball. Draws, meaning hitting it low to cause it to spin backward. If not, it could roll straight into the corner pocket, scratching and ensuring Bucky's victory. My concept around shooting pool was to never ponder the shots too long. Line it up, hit it. Line up the next one, hit it. No time to let my mind punish me with the doubt or indecision. Charlie Mack always used to say, scared money can't make no money. That would become a motto for my life. But that night, it was an ice cold mindset that made me unbeatable. And just like the rest of the night, I couldn't miss. All Bucky could do was watch helplessly, chalking his pool cue for a shot he would never get to take. I ran the table, tapped in the 8-ball, and respectfully picked up both sets of car keys. Now, again, it's those oppositions between his Libra stellium and his Aries stellium, and how he's constantly looking for reassurance of who he is and how he can be just as great as the next guy or even greater. And this pool is making it really come out. Bucky was furious, but he was way too gangster to let me see it. He stormed out of the house, slinging the door open, only to realize he might need to call a cab. I ran out behind him. Yo, Buck, I said. Not now, nigga. Give me a minute, he said, with all the gangster that a dude preparing to hitchhike could muster. Buck, here. I held out his car keys. I'm not taking your damn car. What? He said, confused. You're my boy. I'm not keeping your car. I said, you serious? He said, looking at me like I had 4 heads. But I'm not going to invite you to my house and then take your car. I'm an asshole, but not that much. I shoved the keys into his hand. I didn't recognize it in this moment, but I could see clearly later that this was a gesture of humanity that was non-existent in the environment in which Bucky was forced to survive. He noticed it and he became visibly emotional. Here Will goes patting himself on the back. I mean, this ain't like this angelic deed. He's trying to make it seem like he's just this angelic type of person. Why you tripping, Buck? It's not that serious, I said. He gathered himself, shook the keys in his hand and said, because I would have kept your car. I turned to go back into the house. Bucky chirped his car open and yelled to me, hey, if anybody ever fuck with you, they got a problem with me. And he meant it. At the time, I didn't correlate my cravings and my generally erratic behavior with the wounded state of my heart. When I bought a candy apple red IROC Z and dipped the rims in a matching candy apple, I wasn't perceiving that as a medicinal reflex, nor did I connect the purchase of my custom Suburban with 4 18-inch woofers taking up the entire back half to my feelings of inadequacy, loss, and betrayal. I just thought it was fun that when I was picking up someone, I wouldn't have to call ahead. I would just put my volume on about 7 and they knew who was coming. I was spun out and I was acting out. I bought my first motorcycle, a blue Suzuki Katana 600. I didn't even know how to ride and I crashed it in the first week, but I was balling way too hard to drive a banged up bike, so I bought a new one, the red one. JL crashed that bike. The damage wasn't too bad, just some scuffs on the side panels. But then, not to be outdone by JL, Harry totaled it. I figured this was a sign maybe bikes weren't for me, so I bought a turquoise T-top Corvette. I lined all my cars and motorcycles up in front of the house and invited Daddy-O over so he could see how well I was doing. Daddy-O pulled up in his 2-tone blue Chevy work van. He always believed that vehicles should have a utility. I stood proudly out front as he got out of the van. We hugged. I just got the vet last week, I said. These are all yours? He asked, looking disdainfully at my fresh new fleet. Yup, I said proudly. My arms were respectfully by my side, but in my mind, my b-boy stance was on swole. Boy, why you need 3 cars? He said. You only got one ass. This wasn't exactly the response I've been hoping for, but his mathematical opinion fell on deaf ears because the 1988 Grammy for Best Rap Performance went to DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince for Parents Just Don't Understand. Now, he has a few more pages to go from this chapter, but the next page is a number of photographs that he has of his childhood, of his family, him and Charlie Mack, him and Quincy Jones, him and Tanya. Let's see, he got a picture of him and his first wife, Cherie, with their son, Trey. Picture was taken back in 1993. He got some pictures of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air up in there. He got a picture of him and Jada during their early years. And there's a picture of Will and Martin Lawrence, and Will by himself for the Bad Boys film. So only have a few more pages to go, so hang in there with me. Melanie and I weren't having sex anymore. Something had been broken. We both wanted nothing more than for it to be fixed, but we were barely 20 years old. Our romantic dreams were far too fragile to survive the brutality of our immaturity. I started going to Los Angeles a lot. It was the first time I realized the vibrational power of a city. As soon as the plane would touch down at LAX, something inside me would awaken and align. Something I was and something LA was clicked into harmonious agreement. The energy of the town excited me. I needed less sleep. I was always refreshed. My skin looked better. I was eating right. I wanted to work out. I was inspired. I have since realized the critical importance of environment. Choosing the city you live in is as important as choosing your life partner. And I had just met Tanya Moore. She embodied the sunshine and the possibilities that define LA, the quintessential West Coast rider, fine as hell, sophisticated but sharp in the streets. She knew what neighborhoods to walk in and which ones to drive around. She knew that my red Phillies baseball cap would come off at LAX, and I could put it back on as soon as the flight home crossed the Mississippi. Pooh Richardson was the star shooting guard for UCLA, which next to Millionaire Rapper was about as good as a gig as a 22-year-old Black kid could get. He was born and raised in the heart of South Philly, and he walked around UCLA like a damn mayor. Pooh was everything on that campus, and when his Philly homeboys showed up, he laid it out. Pooh was dating Tanya's cousin, Tajia, who basically managed Pooh's life. She handled his food, his press. She would clear the room when he needed to get ready for practice. It was a relationship mindset that to me at the time seemed so mature. Pooh was the star, but he literally wouldn't know where his sneakers were. His one job was to play basketball well. Tajia did everything else. When I saw them together, I knew I wanted that. They were partners in the Pooh Richardson going to the NBA business. He ended up playing 10 years in the league. Me and Charlie Mack rolled up to Pauley Pavilion where UCLA was playing Stanford. So he brought Charlie Mack with him to LA. We saw Pooh in the locker after the game. Well, that is his bodyguard, but I also say lover too. Philly is in the building, he screamed. The first thing a Philly dude notices when one of his homeboys moves to another city is how bad his fade haircut looks. Philly is known for the fade. We invented it and we do it right. Yo, man, your barber is slipping, I said obligatorily. I probably would have said it no matter what it looked like. When you're from Philly and somebody gets their hair cut in another city, you have to say it looks bad. Yeah, we haven't figured that one out here yet, Pooh joked, touching the sides of his fade. If you're from Philly, you have to say something like that too. He introduced me to Tajia and her cousin Tanya. I must have been too obvious in my appreciation of Tanya's beauty because Pooh grabbed a towel and held it to my mouth. Yo, man, you slobbering. I don't want you to slip and fall on your spit. I shoved the towel away, slightly embarrassed, but keeping my smile and my charm on blaze. Come on, man, go ahead with it. That shit, I laughed, turning to introduce myself to Tanya. There must have been something in the water in Philly, Tanya said. They're growing y'all real nice out there. Pooh jumped in. Yo, Tanya, I'm telling you, this nigga is the next one. You better lock him up now because he going from here to the moon. I was thinking, lock me up? Shit, she just had me at real nights. JL was the only one of my friends who ever see me cry. On a train ride to New York one day, I'd broken down when I told him the story about Melanie, sobbing into his chest. JL is not an emotional guy, and I was not holding back. He would later tell me that in that moment, he devoted his life to me. JL said he knew he needed to protect me. What? JL pulled me up one day. Hey man, you getting into a lot of fights lately. What's up? There was a couple of months stretch where I literally got into a fight every weekend. So he's moving towards his Aries North node with the fighting. I'm not sure if it was knowing that Bucky had my back or that Charlie Mack was standing right beside me, or if it was the only elixir that could satiate my raging heart. But I started sucker punching everybody and anybody who even looked at me sideways. I was angry because even a Grammy, millions of dollars, and a candy apple red eye rock didn't even begin to fill the holes inside me. It's funny, I don't remember seeing any gossip news about Will Smith knocking people out. The thing about money, sex, and success is that when you don't have them, you can justify your misery. Shit, if I had money, sex, and success, I'd feel great. It was probably Charlie Mack knocking them out for him. However misguided that may be, it psychologically permeates as hope. But once you are rich, famous, and successful, and you're still insecure and unhappy, the terrifying thought begins to lurk. Maybe the problem is me. Of course, I dismissed that foolishness quickly. I just needed more money, more women, more Grammys. The record company was ready for a follow-up album. He's the DJ. 3 million records sold, first ever Grammy award in rap. But this new album was going to smash all of that. JL wanted us to do preliminary recording in Jeff's mom's house, whereas I had bought cars, clothes, and houses. Jeff had converted the basement into a Star Trek level home recording studio. JL thought it would be the best cost-effective approach to get our ideas down in Southwest Philly, and then go for the final recording back to London. Jive owned the recording studios there, and we got preferred rates. But me and Jeff had other ideas. Jeff had heard of a famous recording studio in the Bahamas, Compass Point Studios in Nassau. He suggested we record there. After all, Mick Jagger, Grace Jones, David Bowie, Sade, and even Iron Maiden had all recorded at Compass Point. Since we were big time now and had a multi-platinum album of our own, it only seemed fitting that we would record where multi-platinum artists record. Jeff couldn't wait to dig into that studio and check out the tech. I couldn't wait to check out the 2 massive casinos that had just been built in Nassau. We were hyped. JL protested, but he was outvoted 2-1. No filibusters in Jeff's mom's basement. That next Friday, we were off to the Bahamas, all 10 of us. I had never been to the Bahamas. It was 90 degrees and sunny when we landed. Our luggage and equipment got held up in customs, so we hit the beach. Rum punch and chicken fingers until the sun set. Then we hit the casino till sunrise. And that's how the recording of our new album went for about the first week or so. We had scheduled 6 weeks to record, and we had locked out the studio, meaning we had to pay whether we used it or not. Our first full session in the studio, day 9 in the Bahamas, was more like a night in a club. Jeff was DJing while we all sat around with girls and food and drinks. Occasionally, I would get up on the mic, more performing for the crowd than trying to innovate or create new music. After the first session, JL pulled Jeff and me aside and warned that we were burning through $10,000 a day, and that if we didn't start recording, he was pulling the plug. Me and Jeff were kind of offended. You don't understand the creative process, I said. This environment, the people, all the stuff we're doing is our inspiration. Yeah, Jay, Jeff chimed. Don't block the flow. Just let us do what we do, and you do what you do, I said. JL nodded very slowly, as if to say, okay, I see how it is. 1 month and a couple of $100,000 into our process, the red recording light hadn't come on once, and we had still not completed a single song. I guess JL was justified in doing what he did. At the time, I couldn't believe he did it. I would never have done it to him, but I guess he felt that the times were desperate, so he employed equally desperate measures. It was a Friday night. About 20 of us were lounging around in the studio. Our LA squad had flown in to help with the creative process. I was about 5 rum punches in, and I had graduated beyond chicken fingers into jerk chicken, black beans, and rice. I guess it was hot in there because I had my shirt off. It doesn't matter how old you get. There are some childhood images that will always bring a chill down your spine or make your stomach drop. I was holding court in the middle of Compass Point Studio when the door started to open. I first caught a glimpse of JL pushing the door wider, and then Daddy-o. The room froze. Those who knew, knew. The other guests guessed. Daddy-o calmly took in the scene. His eldest son topless, rum punch and jerk chicken stinking up the room, Bahamian bikinis bouncing and misbehaving. And we were at work. To Daddy-o, this was Sodom and Gomorrah. He paused, then, everybody get the fuck out, he said. I need to talk to Will and Jeff. We landed at Philadelphia International Airport at 2:38 p.m. I slept the entire flight. I don't remember takeoff or landing. I'm not sure it's an actual medical condition, but I'm pretty certain I was in an embarrassment coma. James J.L. Lassiter had dropped a dime on me and tatted to my daddy. The whole shit was a debacle. But within 2 weeks, our third album, And This Is the Corner, was at least finished. In this tragic aftermath of his Grim Reaper-like appearance at Compass Point, Daddy-o had made an aggressive but nonetheless convincing assessment of our behavior. You boys are fucking off on an opportunity that most people can't even dream about. You got a major corporation financing your project, and you got girls and shit sitting around in the studio. Keep your dick out of them people's money. You can bullshit, just don't bullshit when you're on the clock. This shit ain't gonna last forever. While Daddy-o's Bahamian intervention has saved us from the further immediate catastrophe, the first domino had already been tipped. With no budget left, we quickly cobbled together the best tracks we could come up with. But there was no real vision or continuity to the album. Me and Jeff were unfocused and out of sync. And In This Corner was doomed from the start. All right, that's the end of chapter 8. Y'all let me know what you think. You want me to continue to read on? Chapter 9 is called Destruction. So that should be interesting. Hopefully he'll get to the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air soon. I mean, again, he's like really being very detailed about his Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince days. Like, I feel like he could be detailed, but without droning on in certain areas. And his Mercury could join the Venus, opposing Saturn and Aries. That's his father coming to the Bahamas and busting him and basically dragging his ass back home and laying into him and all that type of stuff. So again, daddy saves the day. So I'll be back with some more videos. I'll be back with chapter 9 very soon. Stay tuned for that. Peace, many blessings, and I'm out.